We'll be starting today's meeting on agriculture after school, cultivating STEM success, with a video. And as I said, this video came from Edutopia and the George Lucas Education Foundation. So let's take a few minutes to enjoy this.
I feel like I basically live in a science laboratory, whether it is the crops that are grown in the field, the nutrition that Dad has to figure on his cattle to figure out how they're going to gain best, or helping my parents in the vet clinic.
They help us in most everything that we do, and I just see it as life. This is what we're doing, and they do it along with us, but there's nothing that we do here that doesn't probably involve science.
This one's 3 foot. It'll be a little bit of a trick. I'm the 5th generation to operate this farm. On this farm we grow corn and soybeans and some alfalfa. Most of the corn gets fed to our cattle that we feed at the feed yard, so it's kind of a fairly common Midwestern type of family farm setting.
He has a veterinary science bachelor's and I have an animal science bachelor's, and then we went on and got our doctorate degree. Yes, we're scientists and that's what we do, but I see myself more as a food safety veterinarian, making sure that your food is healthy so you don't have to worry about it when you cut into a steak or a piece of chicken or whatever it is that you choose for your protein source.
12.4, so I'm putting in 5340 high moisture corn, then up to 5850 a supplement.
In the livestock industry, that's full of science. The feed rations that Dad has to plan are very in-depth, and it takes a lot of strategic planning and thinking.
Why do we give more hay to the younger cattle on that side?
Because they came off the pasture, and so their tummies are used to
hay is like grass.
roughage. Right. When you look at the cattle, they're a biology experiment right there. Ruminant nutrition. It's different than monogastric, so you can look at nutrition on how they eat and the ingredients that they eat.
So there's a triangle here, and this is her jugular vein, and that's her cervical vertebrae.
You can look at them from an immunological standpoint, how your vaccines prevent them from being sick, those kind of things.
So this morning I vaccinated. It was a 5-way vaccination, so that prevented 5 different viruses. And because of the prevention, we don't have to use as many antibiotics. It's much more efficient for us because there's less sick cattle in the long run, and it's for the health of our animals.
Should be good. We gave Revlor 200, Bovishield Gold cleanup.
Computers are definitely used in every aspect of our operation. At the feed yard, we have a program that we enter treatments and vaccinations for different pens of cattle, and because of that, we're able to make sure that the withdrawal dates are correct and that cattle aren't sent to market while there's still antibiotics in their system. This steer has an abscess right here on his neck. You're okay, buddy.
Normally, we just give them the vaccine, but usually there's something wrong with at least one steer that other than that it needs vaccines. One of the cattle had an abscess like right under his chin there, so we had to flush it out.
You can go over to the crop side and you turn to agronomy. You know, that's something you learn when you're little. Fertilizer, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and water conservation, erosion. I mean, it just seems like it is all around us.
Even the way our pens are designed, whether it's the slope of the pens or how the water runoff happens, or even the electric fence, that's all physics and that's all science. So like I said, I literally live in a science laboratory.
My kids, since they were newborn, have ridden in the saddle with me at the feed yard, and so they've looked at steers every day since they were little, and so steers are what they do.
I go with Liz and we ride pens at the feed yard in the mornings and check for sick or hurt cattle. Also, every morning we wash our 4-H show cattle and brush them up, just working with them, get them ready for the fair.
Okay, question number 1. Which steer is the Hereford market steer?
This is a market steer class, And so these guys will be hamburger and steak in a little bit. And so he's evaluating good structure. He wants good balance. He wants a thickness throughout from his rear all the way to his shoulder. And you want a wide back because that's where the main part of your tenderloin, your prime rib, that's where that comes from.
So what we did, we had about 6 different animals. There was a market and a breeding for each type of animal. And we just had to pick the best one that would suit it for that thing. Like, you'd pick the largest animal with the best muscle for market.
As far as the pet clinic goes, I've been taught anatomy since I was 3. Just watching them and learning from them.
So cats don't have as long of a cervix or a body of the uterus. So with dogs, that'll stretch way out, and you want to get closer to the ovaries. With cats, you can usually pull their ovaries out.
The spay that we did, I've helped Mom do those spays for many years, and I learn about suturing.
Their little minds, ever since they were little, when Ryan would be doing a necropsy on a calf, what organ is that? How does that organ function? He did life science and anatomy and physiology as they went.
Critical thinking is something I want my kids to learn more than anything, and that goes beyond the farm, whether, just thinking critically about, does this process make sense, or should I do this or not?
I think there's absolutely no comparison to actually just doing the work and watching it happen. There's no way that you can learn that by sitting in a classroom and having somebody tell you that. I think that since I've grown up with my parents, I've learned so much, just basic problem solving that I don't think you get if you're not in the workforce.
There you go. Okay. Now make sure they're on 0. And I think through problem solving, I think it teaches our kids to not be dependent on others. Create your own opportunities. Don't depend on somebody else to come along and fix it for you. And as a parent, sometimes it's hard to step back and let them problem solve. Put one of the kids to do a job and they're doing it wrong, and you just have to walk away and let them learn. And my dad did that to me. And I think as a parent, I'm finally realizing he did have to bite his lip or turn his head and say, well, figure it out.
I found it really enlightening. I thought it was a great video. And you notice they talk a lot about things like learning as you go, letting the kids learn as they go, make their mistakes. And those are skills that transfer all across the board to everything. So taking us through our webinar today, we have a couple of great guests. First is Harley Hefner. He's a principal consultant. I believe he's the State Director of Agriculture Education for Illinois. We also have Sherry Dyer, who's a project director out at Richland County, CUSD. And then I'm your moderator. But you don't want to hear from me. Let's hear from Harley, because he's got some great information to pass along to us and some really good resources.
Very good. Thank you, Danny. And I see that the PowerPoint is up there. So yes, my name is Harley Hefner, so thank you for the introduction. I am happy to be talking with you. There are a lot of different resources out there really throughout the whole agricultural education pipeline, and I do work for the Illinois State Board of Education. The primary responsibility that I have here is working with agricultural education, which falls under our career and technical education in the college and career readiness division here at ISBE. And so there is a line item with funds to help support agricultural education really throughout the pipeline. And so what I would like to do with you is to discuss what a few of those resources are that that you may be able to take advantage of, as well as maybe even connecting to some of the existing programs that are out there, if as applicable, or if there is a need, depending again on what you are looking for particularly. So again, happy to be with you, and let's begin by going through some of these resources that you may be interested in. And first of all, begin with the agricultural education website. And you can say, as I mentioned there, it's really a pipeline. So there are resources in agricultural education throughout the educational pipeline, and there's even an outlet beyond education into the workforce with our industry partners, as well as the alumni, which are people that just support our agriculture program. So I'm going to real quick just click on the link to agriculturaleducation.org. And there are a lot of different resources on this particular website. I would say if your focus is more of a 7 to 12 focus, this is probably where you'll find the majority of those sorts of resources. And then for those of you that may have a little bit of focus earlier in the pipeline, so a K-5 or 6-8, then we may have some more information to come here in the next couple of slides that would be more interested for those age ranges. So let's real quick just take a look at the website. There's a lot of information. This is primarily what, well, anybody uses it, but our high school agricultural education instructors, those that are also advisors of their local FFA chapters or their FFA programs, are also part of this agricultural education website here. And what I would point out as far as what your interest is probably going to be is really under the these first couple of links here. And as you can see, when you look under these links, there are some different resources. And so this is Common Core Math. When you click on that, it will go to some activities that are linked to Common Core Math, and they're sort of set up similar to the questions that they might get on standardized tests, and so it's kind of a practice and something. So if that's of interest to you, that would be something good for you to look at. Okay, so we're taking a look at the static page there, and this will be okay. So as you're looking there, you can see there's a menu bar across the top, starting with Home on the left, and then as you move over to the right, that's kind of where I'm going to be. I'll talk about a couple of different ones where you'll find some various resources there, and that's what I'll kind of briefly explain. So the first one is the Educator Resources, and just a moment, here we go. So under the Educator Resources, there are, when you hover over that on the website, and if you have the ability to connect and want to look at it on your own website there, you're welcome to do that as well. But as you hover over that, there'll be several different options to click on underneath that. One of those was the Common Core Math activities, and so as I had explained that, that is a place for some resources that you may be able to find. There's a few of those activities. They are related to agriculture, have sort of an agricultural flair to those activities, and connects to the Common Core, so it can help students kind of work through some of those if that's an area of interest. Another one of those sort of sub-content areas under Educator Resources is called Curriculum Materials. And if you click on the Curriculum Materials, you'll go into several different libraries. The libraries are organized by content, so plant science, animal science, mechanization, business, so it's kind of by different contents. And within those libraries, there are lesson plans, there are PowerPoints that are available. There are quite a number of them that are available there, and there are various activities that are associated with each one of those, so that might be something that's of interest, again, if you are, that's more of a focus at the high school level, so if you are looking for those sorts of materials. As you move down in that same Educator Resources link there, there's something that's called a Teacher's Toolbox. And as you look at the Teacher's Toolbox, there's a lot of different folders that have various resources inside of those. Some of those that you might be more interested in, there's a folder link in there on agricultural careers, and I'll show you another place where there's some good information on career information if you're helping students to explore their interests. So that might be something that would be of interest to you. Some of the other resources that you'll find there are more related to a high school agriculture program. But the careers might be one. Another one that may be of interest, there are magic kits or agri-science kits. That's probably more for a junior high, middle school level grade range, but that folder is also within there as well. So just a couple of options for you. The other thing, again, in the Educator Resources, there are some workshop handouts that has various types of information on it as well. The next one I'd like to cover is the next link over on that menu, which is the Ag Ed programs. And so when you hover over the Ag Ed programs part on that website, there's some information there that may be of use to you as well. And probably the one that will be most useful is the first link, which is the Ag in the Classroom link, or the very last link, which is a search for a school or a teacher in your area. And I mention that because while these resources are available for you to use on your own, certainly, it may be of interest for you to contact a local high school agriculture program, or maybe even one at a community college or university that might be near you that has a program. And the reason why I mention that is because oftentimes, students have various interests, and so you might be able to work with that instructor. Depending on the program, they may have students that would be interested in assisting you with the types of activities that you're doing, again, if that's of interest to you. So it's just some personnel or people support, at least an opportunity to have that conversation with a teacher to see if that would be an opportunity in your area. So I say that because the search function there, if you go to the search function to search for a school or a teacher, you can look for schools in your area, or and let's say, for example, you're in the Quad Cities area. I saw somebody from Kelowna online here as we were sort of making our introductions. And so they could look at Geneseo, that's fairly close to them, or they could look at Orion, or the Port Byron. I think there's several different programs that are close to them, and make connections to those teachers who may have some resources for them, may have students that would help with doing certain activities with your students there. So again, it kind of depends on what you're looking for, but just wanted you to know what some of the options or possibilities would be. So with that, let's see here on that website, since the other thing I mentioned was the Ag Careers, and there's some connections to different agricultural career websites, but I think we'll move on. Since you can't see that, we'll move on in our presentation here, and we'll go over to the next slide. So can everybody see that now? We just switched, and it's got an example.
And they can also hit the link, and it will open their web browser, and so they can follow along that way.
Okay, great. So this next slide here, and as you're looking at it, hopefully it says Agricultural Education Resources and Golf Course Superintendent up at the top. And so that's Golf Course Superintendent. That's just an image of part of what a career profile includes. So it's kind of a little map along the way of things that a student might do along this little pathway here, or things that they might explore to then eventually get to this particular career. And so I'm going to go in and show you, again, if these students are interested in exploring their interests, and that's something that you'd like to take advantage of. There are quite a few of these different links here, and I'll go over to the website. And again, these are sort of by content. And so if you're looking at this website, this mycart.com website, there's a plant science careers that are related to plant science, those that are related to animal science, ag mechanics, ag business, environmental careers, food science careers, natural resources. All of these fall under the umbrella of agricultural education, or sometimes referred to as ag, food, and natural resources. And so I'm just going to choose one of those that might be, let's see if we can find our golf course superintendent, and that's under the plant systems pathway, and I click on that. There are actually 3 different pages that are associated. The first one, there's usually a picture of what that career might be like, and it's one that you could, print out or put up as a poster, so it's a nice kind of a professional picture. There is also a QR code in the corner of that that will go to an app that's a careers app. Basically, it's got those same careers. It's just in an app format rather than in a PDF format. The second page, as you go down, has a career profile of an actual person that's in that type of a career. So it's kind of a conversation on paper, if you will, of this person talking about their career. And then the very last page of this was the one that you saw on the PowerPoint that has, the pathway and then kind of some links of and some information about that particular career. So there are many different types of careers that are available. This just happens to be one of them that I chose to go through there and show you as an example. So I would encourage you, those are free to use. There is no charge to use those. It was developed by the state of Illinois. So any of those career profiles will be open for you to use. Well, let's move on to the next slide in the presentation here. And so now I'll switch a little bit from more of the resources at the high school level to some more of the resources at more of the elementary and middle school level. And so again, sort of under this agricultural education umbrella is something that we call Illinois Ag in the Classroom. And this is a specific, it's actually a national project or national movement. We have our specific Illinois Ag in the Classroom that this, in our state, it operates out of the Illinois Farm Bureau in Bloomington. But nearly every county in the state has a county coordinator that works with these resources and materials. You may have even seen or heard or know of some of the Ag in the Classroom county coordinators. They typically will go into at the elementary level and provide materials and resources, or do a lesson or do some activities with those students in a particular classroom at a school. And so that would be, I am going to go through what some of these resources are that you can access on your own, but I would also indicate to you that those county coordinators would be a good resource of a person, people capital that you could contact as well, that maybe work out something to come in and talk to your students, or again, the potential to work with your local high school agriculture or FFA program to work that out. And again, it's kind of up to you, and depending on what you want to do or what you're looking to do, or if you're just interested in the resources, that's fine as well. And so what I think we'll do here is look at, go into the Ag in the Classroom website. And so hopefully the slide advanced and you folks can see that on yours. Basically what you're looking at is the Ag in the Classroom, a screenshot of the Ag in the Classroom website under the resources. Over there on the left-hand side in the green, different links. And because of the size of this page, the top of it's cut off. So the actual teacher resources, I believe, is right above where it says teacher workshops there. It just happens to be cut off in this screenshot. But these are all links over there in the white and the blue letters, those are all links to various different information that you might be interested in. Again, if you're working with kind of a younger age in the educational pipeline. So there are things such as the ag mags, and let me just go to that website here real quick. If you would like to go to that website and take a look at an example of what one of those ag mags would be, feel free to click on that link and join me, and I'll try to kind of walk you through it here as we do that. So I'm at the home page, and again, I clicked on Teacher Resources. That was in the green over there, and that got us to the screen that those of you that are looking at the PowerPoint can see that. I clicked on Ag Mags, and there are probably 20 or so different Ag Mags, and what those do, the Ag Mags, again, is kind of a focus on a particular item. So, for example, the one I'm looking at is on apple production, but there are those that are on beef or careers or nutrition or specialty crops or soils or urban agriculture, water, biotechnology. These I'm just kind of going through: pumpkins, renewable energy. Those are some of the more STEM-related items, technology, and then some of the different animals as well. But anyway, each of these ag mags is structured fairly similarly, and so as you go in and you look at an ag mag, they have information. For example, like I said, I'm looking at the apple one, so they have information about apple or apple production in Illinois. They usually have a story. In this case, Johnny Appleseed. There's kind of some information around that. There is information that's related to the standards and what a student that they can apply it, and it relates to what they're doing in their class. And so in this particular one, there's a little section in there on how a bill becomes a law, and so it talks about the state fruit of a particular state, and it just has varieties of apples, how trees are pollinated, and has kind of some cartoons and little images in there that students could use to match it up. Has a little bit of a history about it, parts of an apple that are labeled, and so kind of some vocabulary and that sort of thing. And then it relates it to a real life, in this case, Eckert's Family Orchard, relates it to a real life career. They grow apples and other types of fruit, and then talks a little bit about, how that relates to real life. And have highlights of a couple other types of jobs or careers in that as well. And usually these ag mags have some sort of an activity associated with it as well. So again, depends a little bit on each one, but generally they're all structured fairly similarly. And there might be a few questions in there to answer that usually kind of quiz you a little bit on what was in the magazine. So that might be of interest to you, and something that you would want to take a look at. As you go down, I'm back on the PowerPoint now. There's a lot of different links, but the next one I kind of highlighted some that I thought you might be more interested in that have some of these resources. Interest approaches, again, those are some lessons with some activities attached that help relay a particular point, and so that might be something that you're interested in. There are lesson booklets, and again, those are sort of key by particular content. So as you look at a lesson booklet, just looking at them, there are ones all about beef or horse lessons or different livestock areas. Some of them are by after school, obviously, which you might be interested in, so it breaks it into K-3 or 4 through 6 or National Ag Week activities. So again, you just have to look at that yourself under those lesson booklets and see which ones you would be interested in or which ones would apply to you. But those have some really good activities that you could do. Most of the activities that they've identified are on a shoestring budget, so you don't have to, go out and purchase hundreds of dollars worth of things. There are usually a few supplies that would be needed, but oftentimes they'll even provide things that you can just print out and use as, you know, some of the supplies for these activities. So that would be something else that might be of interest to you folks as well. And let's see here, tech stuff, or I'm sorry, the smart lessons is what it should be. Somehow the highlighting got off there a little bit. So if you have a smart board, again, depending on what your technology ability is, wherever you're teaching, there are some lessons that are developed around using smart boards, and so students could get up and use those particular lessons that might be you know, I don't know, identifying the parts of a plant, and you move the words or the parts to the right part of the plant or something like that. And so that, and again, I think all of these are free, so none of these would be things that you would necessarily have to pay for unless there's specific supplies involved with an activity or something. And then the very last one at the bottom of this page is agricultural careers. So again, some more information about agricultural careers. So a lot of different resources on this page that I think would benefit you, that you would be interested. I would just encourage you to cruise around and find out what some of those different resources are, again, as they would apply to you. And so another link then on this same Ag in the Classroom site, and the reason why I put this one in here is that these are the county coordinators that I mentioned earlier. So this would be under the Contact Us link that you see up here, and then contact your county coordinator or county ag literacy coordinator. And so as you see down here towards the bottom, and I'm on the PowerPoint here, lists the county coordinator contact list. If you click on that link, it'll bring up a list of all the coordinators and their phone numbers and their contact information for every county, or at least every county coalition in Illinois. So no matter where you are with your particular after-school program, you can find somebody that's pretty close that may be a resource, or that may be able to come into your classroom if that's what you're interested in, or at least give you some ideas and help and some activities and some additional guidance, again, if that's what you're looking for. The other reason I had this slide up here is underneath the county coordinators, you can see agri-learning kits and magic kits. They do check out. These are kits, so it comes in a tub typically, and so all the material that you would need would be in the tub, and basically you kind of take it out. There's usually a notebook or something in there, and the supplies are in those tubs, and you can check those out and then, you know, return those back to the coordinator. But the county coordinator would be the one you would contact to use those tubs. And again, if you are just interested in what types of content would be in there, I'm just going to look real quick and see if they have them. Yeah, so some of the different kits, and I'll just go down a few of them. Machines, so that'd be like simple machines, soils, plants, the state of Illinois, dairy, insects. So those are just a few of the examples of some of the kits, of those magic kits that are listed there that you could check out and use with your after-school folks. And most of the activities are that's broken up such that depending on what your time length is, you can do a short activity, or you could do several activities that would take a longer period of time. So my background, I used to be a teacher, so understanding that flexibility is important, and I think most of these resources would allow that flexibility. Okay. Now, let me transition a little bit. That was, those resources were all agricultural education, FFA related, again, the whole pipeline. Now I'm going to transition a little bit to something that's somewhat removed from what I do specifically with the State Board of Education, but I thought was important to point out to you as resources. I did contact some 4-H staff from the state office, but they were unable to join us today for the conference call, so I told them at a minimum I would at least mention 4-H, and if you were not aware, at least some of the resources or possibilities that might be available to an after-school program. Currently on their website, they do have an after-school website, State of Illinois 4-H program, which is run through the University of Illinois Extension. And they do have some resources on there, and so you can see that website that's listed there. But they did want me to let you know that they are in the process of a website change, and so probably come December, they'll have a new website, completely different than the one that's there. They didn't have the new website URL yet, otherwise I would have shared that with you. But if you do a Google for Illinois 4-H or Illinois 4-H After School, then those resources should be available on the new website come December or January. But you have a potential to create a club with your after-school program through 4-H. You have a potential to do project or activity-based things with your students. And so if you're familiar with 4-H and the concept of a club, you know students will often choose 1 or 2 or 3 or more projects to do, but that typically occurs over a longer period of time. But now they've been flexible enough and grown through the years that they really have some activity-based resources that are more focused around, some of them are focused around STEM activities that vary in length. And so that might be something that 4-H could provide that would be more of interest to you as well. So just wanted to make sure that you are aware that would be a potential for some additional resources from you. Your contact for the 4-H resources, again, will be your local extension office in your area. So you can look up University of Illinois Extension in your area and find who that is, or the website link that I have on the PowerPoint is also where you can find those county contacts. And you could do that, at your leisure to find out who the contact is for your particular area of the state. So I did want to let you know that those resources were available as well. That is about all I have to share with you. I know I would be happy to take any questions if anybody has any specific questions on this, but otherwise that's what I had to share with you today.
Great. Thank you so much, Harley. That's fantastic. Those are some incredible resources. I'm sorry we had a little glitch there, but obviously people were able to go in and look at those on their own. One of the things that occurred to me was that all of the stuff around nutrition is, and so many of these other pieces are very transferable into urban areas as well. I've visited schools or after-school programs in Chicago, specifically Dr. Pedro Albizu Campos at the Alternative Schools Network. And they had rooftop gardens where they were growing all kinds of things. I was just in New York City where every tiny little plot of land in the middle of Manhattan had gardens going, and we're pretty prolifically growing some things. So it's great that we can take some of these same types of ideas and resources and put them into urban settings as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I would just mention that, yes, agriculture has really transitioned in the last couple of decades from the focus on farming to more of a scientific focus. And so even in our secondary programs, while they still do cover production agriculture, as you can see maybe from some of the resources, it really covers a vast array of additional topics from, food to natural resources, environmental science, and all sorts of topic areas. So yeah, it doesn't really matter where you live. If it's in the city or rural, I'm sure there would be some resources and some interest to you. As a matter of fact, the biggest agriculture program in the state of Illinois is Chicago High School for Ag Science, which is up there in our urban Chicagoland area. So.
Wow, fantastic. So we're going to go ahead and transition now over to Sherry, who's working out in the field. And so Sherry, if you want to take over and tell us about your program, just share with us what y'all have been doing.
I will. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, very good. All right, so I just wanted to say that Harley was absolutely the best person to introduce a lot of the things that we have actually been using in our program over the years. So we have absolutely taken advantage of Ag in the Classroom, and we have done exactly what he recommended. We contacted our local Farm Bureau office, asked for who that educational connection is, and those people have been wonderful to come out to our school programs, and it is wonderful because they provide that person who comes out, brings ideas, brings supplies. Once in a while, you know, I'll offer to purchase some of the supplies to make some of those activities happen. But so that's been a great. The 4-H connection through the Extension office has been a great connection. The picture you're seeing right now is, if you go down just a little bit, back to that garden picture. So our middle school principal wrote a grant to our local Walmart Foundation and got funding for a school garden. Then we connected with our after-school program grant, and what we did is we developed a pizza garden, and the kids were responsible for planting, preparing the area. It didn't take a huge area, like you said, probably a 20 by 20 is big enough. We grew tomatoes, onions, peppers, and herbs. The kids were responsible for doing the weeding of it and the watering. Our summer school program kids took care of most of that throughout the summer. And then when our school year program started back up, then the kids were able to harvest, and they learned how to freeze their products and cook those into a meal, actually. So the picture that you see there is with our Walmart contributor, our site manager for the middle school, and then our 4-H connections also. So it was a great connection and collaboration. So you can see some of the kids there working on getting those things together. There's their produce. And then this is our recent cleanup from that garden experience, because that's all part of it. And then taking their produce and making their pizza. Another program we've done in conjunction with our 4-H is the Teens as Teachers. And that's another great program I would recommend to people, because basically our 4-H students who are at the high school level come into our program and they prepare a lesson. They have supervision. I almost always provide somebody there with them in addition to the person who comes from 4-H, that supervisor. But yeah, lots of great topics, and then it works well for them as well as us. Things like looking at persimmon seeds and deciding how much snow we're going to get this year. So we've also had kids do things that not necessarily, you know, we've talked about the rural and the ag connection, but lots of those things are connected to lots of other pieces of our community. We've taken kids on field trips to the airport, dairy farm, grain elevator, taught them how to make butter. You know, our Ag in the Classroom and our 4-H leaders have brought in ideas like how to make ice cream, so they do that with the kids. And then our field trip would be connected to things like going to that dairy farm and going to that ice cream shop uptown and seeing how what I made in a Ziploc bag, basically back at school, then I can see that as a product connecting to the business world, et cetera, et cetera. So, like I said, lots of good life lessons and soft skills are taught throughout the 4-H connection and the Ag in the Classroom connections, and my site managers absolutely back that up. So
Sherrod, can I ask you a couple questions?
Please do.
Okay. So I'm curious, how did the program get started? What were the things that you did to get things moving, to kind of focus in on the things you thought would be important and the things that the kids liked?
Mm-hmm. And so basically I went out to, I reached out to both the Ag in the Classroom personnel through the Farm Bureau office, and I also went to the Extension office and sat down with the 4-H Extension leaders there and explained to them what our program is, the kids that we serve and the families that we serve throughout the 21st Century program, and then basically just asked, what do you have that can be beneficial to both of us? So we want a win-win. Both of those programs want to reach out to the kids in their areas, so we offered that piece for them, and they have lots of great materials and supports there, so that was a win. And then for us, you know, some days it is hard to always find people who come in with fresh ideas, and sometimes our school day teachers are tired, so it's nice to have those people come in who haven't worked in the classroom all day and have some new fresh ideas and look at things from a different perspective. So what does that look like from, like I said, the outside world view, and what could they offer to kids, and what do they think that kids would enjoy and like, and you know, it's been great because the kids are engaged, they are active. Almost all the activities let the kids work together in small groups or teams, and so those are all great skills for our kids to learn.
Great. So, and let me encourage other people, if you've got questions for either Sherry or Harley, you know, please put those into the chat while I grill her with another question real quick.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So I'm curious, was there any special things that you did to go around funding, to look for revenue streams to help pay for these kinds of programs?
Mm-hmm. And like I said, as our program has become established in our community, people do start to seek us out as a way to collaborate. So as I mentioned, so our school day principal had written a grant for a school garden. Well, our school gets out around the middle of May and doesn't start back up until around the middle of August. Those are, you know, the prime gardening months and weeks, I would say. So it made total sense to her that once she got that grant from our Walmart center, that she needed to make that connection with somebody who would be having kids here and families here during the summertime. So that was great. As I've reached out, like I said, to the Ag in the Classroom and to the 4-H and Extension, they have sources and resources that as we network together, we're able to work together and make more things happen. So maybe they have, I know we had a rocket session. So, you know, they had the pieces, and so then that works well. You know, each group has their own goals, so we just find ways to make those blend together.
One other thing I would mention too, and excuse me, this is Harley Hepner, if you choose to work with one of your high school programs, so for example, say the FFA chapter and the advisor or the instructor at the high school level, sometimes there are grants available because part of what those chapters do is do community work or community service or work with different community groups. Sometimes they have access to apply for grants for funds to do those sorts of activities. So again, that would be a collaboration between you folks and then reaching out to them to see if you can, you know, build an interest in maybe applying for something like that. So that's another, you know, possibility on that landscape.
Absolutely.
Right. So, you know, as I look at the programs, and I know a lot of your kids are, you know, they're coming from these rural areas. Probably, you know, agriculture is very familiar to them. How do you bring in kids who may be new to the area, who this is not new to them, or this is not something they already know about? How do you kind of start to bridge that gap with kids who haven't been exposed to some of this before?
And I would say that it is might sound surprising to some, but our town has about 9,500 people, our main town in our county, so it's relatively small, and lots of farmers, etc., out in the outlying areas, but many of our students, especially the ones our at-risk students who come to our after-school program, do not have that connection. So most of them don't have a garden. Most of them don't have anybody to open up a persimmon and look at the seeds. Most of them don't have that. So I would say the same things that we do is just offer things that are interesting or enticing to the kids. We try to make things hands-on as much as possible so that the kids, that's always a piece. When they get to get dirty, when they get to work together in a small group, when they get to try something they've never tried before, you know, that enticement of we're going to work on this garden, and then, you know, our payoff is going to be that pizza that we get to eat at the end, and seeing that as a reward.
This is Marion Baldwin with Illinois Quality After School. I want to first of all say thank you to all of you all presenting, Harley, Sherry, and Danny. I think this has just been an excellent webinar. And one of the things as you all were talking that I kept thinking about, regardless to your locale, we all have a vested interest, I'd say, in food. And ultimately, I think that is one of the things, Sherry, you mentioned at the end, the pizza at the end. That is one of the things that ties us all to the Agri STEM concept, I do believe. And I think you all have wonderful resources for everyone to connect to. As Harley went through the Ag Mags, I dipped into a couple of them, and the one on nutrition I thought was just so fun, and I could imagine that children, regardless to where they're in school, would really get a kick out of and enjoy doing the activities that were in that particular magazine. So thank you all for sharing today.
Yes, thank you. And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say you're very welcome. Please use the resources that are available. We'd be tickled to have you use them.
Well,
Absolutely.
I know I intend to dig in and find some more to use. So they were excellent resources. Thank you for sharing. Absolutely.
That's all really good stuff, and it's very timely. You know, we all need to be, you know, Marion's right. Food concerns all of us. We're all connected by food. We want it to be good stuff. At this time, I do want to thank you both for being here today, for helping us out, and just want you to know that the people on the webinar, you know, really appreciate the time and the effort that you put in. And to those folks, I'd like to say, you know, all of the resources that were brought up today by Harley and by Sherry and some other things will all be up on the IQA website in just probably at the beginning of next week, since we've got a great big food holiday this week. And so please look for that there, as well as for an archived version of this webinar. So one last time, I'd like to thank Harley and Sherry for your expertise, your time, and your willingness to share this information with everybody. Please be on the lookout, everyone, for the next webinar that will be coming up, as well as workshops, conferences, and other things that are happening right pretty darn close. So
yeah, the January 10th Project Directors Workshop registration has gone out. I know many of you on this call have already registered, and thank you for that. And we're hoping that everyone will, in fact, bring with them a key staff member to that workshop that will be held at the Abraham Lincoln Doubletree Hotel in Springfield, Illinois on January the 10th. And we look forward to seeing each and every one of you there.
all right, and that concludes our webinar. Here's our contact information, and I will leave that up for a few minutes. And if you need to leave us any other comments, we'll leave the chat up as well. So thank you, and have a great holiday, and don't eat too much, but enjoy it all. All right, goodbye.